Down before we call our speakers, our panelists onto the stage. It's warm, please get your waters so you don't have to get up in the middle of the session. Hello and welcome back. Just some quiet at the back, please. We're just waiting for our next panelist, Bachi, to get back from a nature break. She is back. Give her a big hand. Okay, we're all familiar with our next speaker, whose life, I must say, and I'll use a cliche here, has been stranger than fiction. We know you have a lot of questions for Indrani Mukerjea, so please join me in welcoming her on the stage. We can do better than that. Come on, bring your hands together. I also welcome Bachi Karkaria, who is the interlocutor, the interrogator for this session. Okay, take it away, ladies.
Okay, so good afternoon. Hi, Indrani. I think your reputation precedes you, so we don't have to say anything. And so we look forward to a very interesting session. I'll ask you some soft questions, and then I'll ask you some hard questions.
You can ask all the questions that you have prepared.
Wonderful.
No problem, Bachi.
Wonderful. Okay, so if you had to live your life all over again, what would you change?
If I had to live my life all over again, I would live as Indrani Mukerjea.
No, what does that mean? Does that mean Indrani Mukerjea, or Indrani Bora, or Indrani post Peter Mukerjea, or what?
I live life as it comes, really. I think Mukerjea or Bora is just a surname. It doesn't matter. I could call myself Indrani Karkaria if I want to. So it doesn't really matter, but it's Indrani, really.
All right, fine. Okay, so we'll stick with Indrani.
Yeah.
And so what has really been the biggest learning of the past 8 years?
I think what I've really learned is that the human spirit is resilient to all external circumstances. And we all have the inner strength to fight and to rise again and again, no matter what your struggles are. And the circumstances that I have gone through are not very easy, not very easy, perhaps is an understatement. for a regular person, and I am almost the new normal, I think. So with so many people, you know, every second day going into prison, and that is why I asked that question now, just a little while ago, that is there going to be any difference if there is a change in government? Are these agencies ever going to stop being the caged parrots, really? Because they won't, right?
Yeah.
So that is what it is. But then again, you just have to live life and fight for what is right and and speak up. We all have a voice. So.
Well, you have spoken up pretty clearly in this
Yes,
book, and,
yes.
and my questions are really based on that.
Yeah.
So, of all the really macabre
Yeah,
stories
yeah,
that one
yeah.
has heard
Yeah.
around this case,
Yeah.
what has maybe upset you most, hurt you most, or what you found the most laughable?
Uh, Okay, Bachi, to start off with, I just want to tell you there are times I'm going to be speaking a bit slowly because I used to stammer as a child. I need you to know
It's
this.
not in your book.
Yes, I didn't
Okay.
say that in my book, but
Okay.
there are reasons behind it. But so anyway, so there are times kind of I get stuck with my speech, not because I'm preparing my answer, but because, yeah, so okay.
Yeah, by all means, it's
Yeah.
your afternoon.
Yeah. So I think the most hurtful moment was when I was accused of filicide. I think that was very, very difficult for me because I was dealing with two things. One is the loss of a child and loss of my firstborn child. Irrespective of the paternity, I am her mother and she is my firstborn child. And when I went into prison after I was accused, which was after the police custody, I could see very nasty, though, I mean, most of the newspapers were censored before they came into me so that I was not affected. I was not allowed to watch TV for a very long time because the news was just all about one person, you know. I think everybody went into a frenzy about my case. So, yeah, absolutely. So, anyway, so, you know, what really upset me at that point was what people did not understand. I mean, everyone decided I was guilty, and everyone decided that I was that horrible monster who killed my own child, without really even my charge sheet coming in or without any evidence in court. But nobody really realized that there was a grieving mother inside. I was dealing, most importantly, with the loss of a child. That was what was hurting me the most. So that was one. Since you were talking about hurt. The other thing that hurt me a lot was my own family abandoning me. Because when I went into prison, I went in, when I'm saying own family, my parents, obviously my mother had a heart attack the very same day and she passed away, got my clothes and everything. Right. So that was very painful because I couldn't really figure out that how could a man who lived with me, or the family who I gave my life to, who lived with me for 17 years, actually believe something like that, or even if for a moment, if it was true, that, you know, what would I have done if he had been arrested in my place?
Okay, so would you like to continue? Or
yeah, because you asked me a second question. Laughable. Yeah. So the laughable, this thing was when somewhere I read that, you know, I come from the Northeast, and some while ago, actually, somebody had mentioned about Northeast, you know, and I was going to ask that question. So I do black magic, and so I must have done black magic on Peter and everyone else, and that is how I rose so high and I became a person of high net worth. And it's very laughable because I wish I could do black magic. I wouldn't have spent 6 years in prison. I wish I could. So everybody, of course, forgot about my distinctions and the fact that I topped the university and that I used to work 20 hours a day. Of course, all of that went out of the window. But I come from the Northeast, so obviously I do black magic. So that was the laughable bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, I was actually going to come first to your prison part,
Yeah.
since the book is so much about that.
Yeah.
But since you've brought up Peter, the family, and all
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
I certainly wasn't going to ask you about black magic because I mean that was not my question at all.
Yeah.
But why do you think all your family was willing to believe the worst of you? I mean, like everyone.
I don't know about everyone because, everyone who had to say a lot of things about me, I don't know most of these everyone, but I
No, I'm
know
talking of
Peter.
your immediate family.
Yeah, immediate
no,
family.
Vidhi, well, Sheena was not there, but
yeah.
Mikhail, I think, what about your parents? I don't think your parents...
No, my parents were not alive. Actually, my mother had a heart attack the day I was
You said
arrested.
so, yeah.
And my father passed away immediately after that. My father went into a coma. I don't know if you're aware of it. And in fact, I had to, because I'm the only child.
Right.
So I had to step out of prison. I had to take court permission to go and do their last rites. So since I'm their only child. So that is, of course, parents are different. So
But tell me, when did your mother die? Because I think, from what I gathered in the book, it was that, it was much later that then you reconciled yourself with all that had happened, and then you did get in touch with your mother again.
No, this is not after prison. I think you're a bit confused, Bachi. So this is when I got arrested. The very same day my mother had a heart attack. And she passed away in 15 days.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is what had happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about your children? What
Yeah,
about
so
people like Vidhi, who's... Actually, let's just rewind a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because perhaps I hadn't followed that case so very closely.
Yeah.
But what did come to me as a surprise was that Sheena was the child of the rape by your father. And that was the second time that he had raped you. First at 14 and then at 16. And then you found that, in fact, you didn't even know that you were pregnant. You thought you had jaundice, right? And so by the time you realized it was too late to abort the child. So do you think that this rape really, apart from all that happened afterwards, was that really the defining factor in your life? Because you did change your life pretty much after that, from that protected angel background to, making your own life. So was that really the defining factor?
Bachi, I have always, I think, had an inherent strength within me, and which is why I think I survived. From a very young age, I have learned to be on my own. And when I'm saying on my own doesn't necessarily mean not being around with people, but I have learned to deal with circumstances even when nobody supported me. I have had the courage I was a very, very good student. So I did not let anything come in the way of my education, for example. And I continued to study. I topped the university. I continued with my career. So that was something I realized very early on in life, and which is what actually ultimately stayed with me. If there are people who don't stay with me, there is one thing that will never leave you. Actually two things.
Okay. All right. Having said that, you say you have the resilience. Some people might just say it's perhaps a certain brutality towards people, because the reason why I'm saying that is that Siddharth was this young boy who you weren't really very fond of, because there was, of course, Vish. There was, of course, Vish who I think part of the reason why you separate or stood back from Vish was of your own making, and then afterwards, because he was not ready for the fact that you had to carry this child to full term. But Siddharth was this young sucker, if I may say, who kind of was kind enough to, give his name, and would say that, okay, this is my child, even when you weren't married at all to him, and he took Sheena on, and afterwards, even when you were still not married, you didn't marry him anyway.
No.
So you were still not married to him, but you then did go to bed with him and get Mikhail. And so you had these two children with this young man. And then you decided that, no, this is not the guy I want in my life. And you just walked away from that. So also your second marriage, your first marriage, Sanjay. There also...
Sanjeev.
Sorry, Sanjeev. So there maybe you did, that happens in all marriages, that people grow apart, people don't mature the same way, and you still walked out. So in that way, people might be ready to say that, you're very brutal about relationships, and so they might be prepared to believe the worst about you, though I'm sure however brutal a person is, to be accused of murdering your child is carrying it to another degree. So what do you think of yourself? Would you say that, yes, you are pretty harsh about relationships?
Bachi, I do not conform. I never have, and I will not conform to the good girl syndrome. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I do not believe that if I cannot be happy in a relationship, if I'm not happy in my relationship with a person, or if I'm not happy in that situation myself, I cannot make the other person happy. So it is not just about my happiness. Yes, do I put myself before the happiness of the other person, if that is the question you're asking me? It depends who the other person is. If it is you're talking about my 3 children, I would put their happiness before mine. If you are talking about a man in my life, I'm going to put my happiness before the man's happiness.
Okay, we are going to get some cheers for that. All right. But still, okay. Tell me now, what was that point where, the whole lot has been said about how you tried to pass off, these 2 children as your siblings, and going by your book, which one is...
I have explained.
You have explained it, that yes, that your parents thought that, it was, that it was too much for society to take,
yes.
So not just 1 but 2, and your parents then decided that these 2 children would be brought up as theirs. But if, for the sake of society, they didn't want you to be exposed to that, then how did they explain to that same society how these 2 young kids, came into their life?
Bachi, if you've read my book, I have had, in detail, like I have had Sheena when I was 16 years old. Yeah, I was still a minor. And irrespective of what people have to judge or think, at 16, I was not, or at 18, in fact, when I left home, I was 18. I was not in a position, I had not even finished my education, I was not in a position to take care of 2 young kids. That was, and that is the reality is that, I would have ended up probably, instead of finishing my education, I would have ended up becoming a hooker, I think. That is what
my question was not
no,
about...
No, I know what you're saying. I'll come to that.
Yes,
I'll come to that. I've understood what you're asking. And so I wouldn't have been where I am. But most importantly, the day I was financially independent, okay, and the day I believed that I could take care of myself, at the very same time, I brought my kids back to me because I would not have done justice to them. Now, your question is that when my parents, decide that they were going to adopt the children and raise them as their own, it happens in a lot of places. That was not the painful part of it. The painful part of it for me, I can only talk about my feelings, I can't talk about theirs. Because the agreement was that when I finished my education and I could take them back, I would bring them back to me. But when I went back, 2 things had happened, which was a very heartbreaking moment for me, that my children did not recognize me. That was the most heartbreaking moment for me, because they were obviously, one was a little baby, the other was a toddler, and also I had to go to my grandparents. My parents and my mother had not, brought the kids to meet me till the last minute. And I had already given up. I was 17 years old. I didn't know about all the legal, ramifications. And I didn't realize that I had given up my rights to my children. At that point, I didn't realize it. And it continued. So after I left, I did not connect back for another 10 years. It was my parents reached out to me when they became old and they needed me and they needed the support, and they couldn't kind of obviously maintain their lifestyle the way they should. But I didn't grudge them for it.
In the
right?
meanwhile, you had reconciled yourself to the fact that these kids, I mean, okay, they're my siblings, but they're not my children. I mean, did you reconcile
I was not
yourself?
even in touch with them, Bachi. So for me, honestly, I did not perhaps emote the way I should have as a mother when I met them after, because I think Sheena was Sheena was almost 15 when she was almost 15. And also for them, also for Sheena, because it was like, she grew up with my mother as her mother. But we bonded very, very well over a period of time. And all these, unnecessary talks that were around, obviously in the media, oh my God, she was heartbroken that, I did not accept her as a daughter. That's all rubbish, because that is not true. Yes, because she never said any of this to anybody ever.
So tell me, just tell me, what was just describe for us that time, which must have been really traumatic, that your kids were then told by your parents, or whom ultimately, that they were actually not your children. I mean, that they were your children, but and not your siblings. And I think that came as a bit of a surprise to you.
That came as a bit of a surprise to me as well as to them, actually, because it was when my parents had reached out to me for financial help, obviously, and that was the time, obviously, they had to break the news to them.
But did they discuss it? Did they discuss it with you, that now we are going to tell them the truth? They did not.
No, they did. It was a very kind of awkward situation, really. Honestly, it was a very awkward situation, because very few people, apart from my ex-husbands, and actually both my husbands are ex-husbands now. Right. So I have two ex-husbands.
Yes.
So apart from Sanjeev and his mother, as well as Peter, very few people, and very, very few people, close people, not too many people knew about Sheena and Mikhail at all, really. So, because I was on my own and, things like that. So, but when they reached out, and this was a conversation that I had with Peter, which is what I had written in my book. And that time, Peter was the CEO of Star.
Right.
And he said, oh my God, this is going to destroy my reputation. So, I mean, you were talking about, and this is on hindsight, I feel I should not have put the man before my kids, and that was the mistake I made. So for this thing of what is society going to say, obviously we continued, because I wanted to see, the easiest thing for me, Bachi, would have been to send a check every month to my parents, and that would have ended it all, right? And nobody would have ever. I wanted my kids back. I wanted them back in my house. I wanted to live with them. That is why I got Sheena back to Bombay. I wanted to make up on that lost time. And that is something nobody ever really understood or realized. What was the need if I wanted to keep it one big secret?
No, but then why don't you tell? I mean, it's quite clear
it's
in
in
the
the
book.
book,
But maybe you would like to tell the audience as to, what was that difficult bridge phase, really, of getting these kids back. I mean, they're not kids. One is 15 and one is
13,
13, and which is really the most awkward age, even in the best of circumstances. Then to come back, find this sudden mother arriving in their life, you having to confront some secret that had been sort of buried, 15 years ago. I mean, just tell us what everyone went through.
I think it was more emotionally taxing on me, I think, because I was the adult there at that point. I mean, I was also very young. I was, when Sheena was 15, I was 31, 32.
Well,
I mean, now
you do say that the difference between your age and Peter is actually...
Yeah, Peter's 17 years older than me,
Right,
which is all right, I think I've always been drawn to older men, so I hope that'll change someday. But anyway, that's just kidding. But jokes apart, I think, so we really, I think for me it was a bit emotionally turbulent. But I started really because Mikhail decided to go to Bangalore. He wanted to go and study in Bangalore International School. So that's where he went. And I really never had that kind of issue with him, because in the sense like he wasn't living with me.
But Mikhail is the one who's really decided to be
but
the most distant. So just as a kind of to hark back again, that to my first question of what would you have done differently, so that do you feel now that maybe you could have done a little more outreach, a little less of thinking of maybe Peter or society or whatever, and maybe needed to make more of an effort to build a relationship with your children? Or like even Vidhi, who hasn't got any of this trauma in her background. She's a proper legitimate child of a legitimate marriage with Sanjeev. I mean, she's also turned against you. Then she had, because she was misinformed. Book, So
okay, I will tell you the background of that book also, right? Yeah. Okay. So now we will
answer that question.
Okay, I will address each child. Okay, let me.
No. First, the question that do you think, with hindsight, you could have made a little more effort with these children?
I think with Mikhail, perhaps I should have spent a bit more time. I think with Sheena, because she lived with me, I know that I have given her my 100% and I have spent enough time. With Mikhail, the reason I could not spend time was because I was working 16 hours a day. He was in Bangalore, and then, he had to go to Delhi. After that, he was studying in Delhi. So it was more of the physical distance. We were not in the same place. But with Sheena, no, I do not believe that I could have done anything more than what I did as a mother, or the efforts that I would also say that she had put in the equal amount of effort, okay? So it would be very unfair to say that I was the only one making efforts. No, I think she gave her 100% into this relationship, which Mikhail did not.
And what about Vidhi?
Yeah, so I'll come to Vidhi. So with Vidhi's always grown up with me. It was only when I was, heading the INX network, I realized that I had very, very little time for her. She used to go to the German International School that time, and then I think she was just in standard 6. Yeah, I think in standard 6. And that is when we decided that she should perhaps go to Bristol and board there and study. So she went there, and then in a few years, I sold my shares and we relocated to Bristol. We were in between Bristol and England. So the day I got arrested, and this is something I have actually not written in my book. Is it time?
No.
Yeah? Okay.
You're not saved by the bell.
Yeah. No, I won't. I'd love to talk. I can speak for hours. Don't worry about that. If you have the time, I'll.
You've got the inclination.
Yeah, I have the inclination. Right. Yeah. So, and I always like to, I take every question on the chin, so I will answer.
It's also no, it's not just one-sided, because I think you really want as many people to know your side of the story, and okay, writing a book is one thing, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where were we?
We were about Vidhi.
Yeah, so, so when Vidhi, the day I got arrested, it was uh, a day short of Vidhi's 18th birthday. And it is very interesting because the next day I was arrested on the 25th of August. And the next day, a very, very expensive property was supposed to shift to Vidhi. And this is very interesting because I need to talk about this even if I run out of time. Okay, so the first thing that, and I was arrested on the 25th and 26th, yeah, she would have turned. So the moment I got arrested on the 25th, the first thing that Peter did was write to the society to stop the transfer. So your wife is arrested on a murder charge, and all you can think of is stopping a transfer, which was very, very odd. And when I came out of prison, Vidhi was not in touch with me for almost 3 years. And then suddenly one fine day, as the case started unfolding and she started seeing all the evidence, she started realizing that, hang on, all the stories that I was fed by the Mukerjea family is not necessarily true. And Vidhi was made to write that book. And you will hear about it, because the reason I have written about this in this book is because obviously HarperCollins made it a point to, that is how they work. They made it a point to get Vidhi to read this book and ask her that you need to tell what your mother is saying is true. You need to say this, write it, give it in writing in court, as well as here saying that what she's saying is true. So Peter's best friend's sister became her literary agent, and the entire book was almost written and published. That is one.
But you,
and no, I'll come to it.
You read the book, you didn't raise
No,
any...
I will also tell you about this. So
Yeah.
her book was sent to me by somebody, to my lawyers as well. And obviously their response was, my lawyer said that you can't let her publish this book. Mm-hmm. I said, no. I said, she is going to go ahead and publish it because I want her to tell her story. The reason I want her to tell her story is because I want to tell after that all what she said, she was made to say that. And which is exactly what she's done. She's gone out and said that I was made to say all this. And I needed her to, it needed to be in her voice who made her say all these things. And that is exactly what happened. So sometimes you need to, when things are always not in your favor, you don't need to necessarily
that
stop
was a very,
it.
very calculated
Maybe I'm also not a very dumb woman, Bachi. That's for sure.
That we know. Okay. But tell me, I mean, look, Vidhi, how old was she when
Vidhi was not even 18. But most interestingly, this is a very interesting thing because 3.5 years later, when she came to meet me, and then the moment I went into prison, Peter was looking for this 3,000 euros. You go out and spend 3,000 euros over a meal. So there was this 3,000 euros which was kept in the safe. And Vidhi's instinctive reaction, and you will hear Vidhi talking about this in some forum. I can't say where she's going to speak because it's going to come out very soon. So she said, the first thing that I did the moment, Mom, you got arrested. And Peter kept sending letters through lawyers, my lawyer, saying, where did you keep that 3,000 and sign this and sign that, which I didn't sign anything, of course. That was different. But she said, and she said this to Peter after I came out. She said, Dad, you kept looking for the 3,000 euros. The moment Mom got arrested, there was one thing I knew, that I am on my own from now. She said, I ran to the safe and I keyed in. Every family has a code, for their things. I keyed in that code and the safe opened. We never told her about that code. I get goosepimples when I talk about it, So she said, and the safe opened and I took out that 3,000 euros. And she said that from that moment, and she never told Peter about it, she told about it when I came out. And so that is what it is. And she was obviously under a lot of pressure. from the family that she was going to be on her own, and her education was not going to be funded for. And it was much later she realized that even her education that was funded, the money was taken out from my account. And that is when she said almost up yours to everyone, and she left. That was it. And then she filed that application in court. Sorry for saying up yours.
So Vidhi has at least inherited your survivor genes.
Instinct.
Okay.
And
That's good for
then
her.
she filed an application in court saying that I want to go and live with my mother. So that was it.
Okay, now
So,
I think we're not going to ask the prison questions at all, but I really have to ask you the Peter question.
Yes, please
So
do.
now this book, I mean, this book seems to be almost as much about damning Peter as exonerating yourself. And you have definitely murdered Peter's reputation, personal and professional, even if you haven't murdered your daughter. Sorry to say
Thank you
that
for
way.
saying that.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
but the point is, Peter was this iconic figure. He was a media star. And the way you've made him out to be, it's as if he was a wimp in his personal life, in the way that he handled his ex-wife and couldn't, extricate himself from her. The fact that you made all the wise decisions at INX and Peter really was making the wrong decisions, or he wasn't making any decisions because he was, either traveling or doing whatever. I mean, how do we swallow that?
Okay, Bachi, let me, since you have asked several questions in this, let me address each of your questions one by one. See, when I had written this book in prison. So when you talk about pen to paper, yes. No, I did not say that. I have written this, I had written some 1,26,582 words in prison. And it was when you talk about writing, I've written it with a pen to paper, so, and I used to have the ink eraser. So that is how I wrote the book, and I think someday I hope to sell that handwritten manuscript for a fortune. I'm a businesswoman at the end of the day. So anyway, coming back to this, so that is how it got printed so quickly, because the book was ready. So yeah, Peter, I'm talking about Peter.
Yeah.
So when I actually wrote this book, a lot of people, when I came out, including very, very close friends, had said that, listen, you must write this as a fiction based, and say it's a fiction based on your life. And the reason I chose not to do that, and instead I said that no, I am going to write it as a memoir, and I'm going to take the names of every single person and publish it only with a reputed publisher. There are two reasons behind it. One is somebody like a HarperCollins, and particularly when you write a book without putting pseudonyms, they do not put in anything in the book until and unless it is validated. You would know this because you're a journalist and a very reputed one. Yeah. So it took 6 months. My book was ready. It took 6 months of legal validation of every single word that I said, right?
Peter has not disputed any of it.
He cannot dispute it. He cannot.
He can try.
Well, he didn't. He
Because
cannot.
we all know. I mean, the
He
judge,
cannot.
the
It's as
courts
simple. See,
belong-
thoughts and opinions are different. Facts that I had. See, the day I got arrested, there were two very interesting things that happened. That the next few days, Peter spent just interviewing with all the journalists, saying what a monkey I made out of him. Those were his words. Hello, you were supposed to be this cool dude, the CEO of Star, and if a woman came and made a monkey out of you, then I am clearly smarter than you. Okay? So that is that. And then you should not feel ashamed if I have written it in a book that you are a monkey. No, I didn't call him that. I'm just saying that.
Just about everything else.
Yeah, so everything else. So that is that. Right? Those were his words, not mine. So
Sorry, Bachi, can we now please have questions from the audience?
No, 1 minute. I just have one question.
Okay, we've really run out of time. We're 5 minutes
Okay,
over
let the
time
audience
already.
ask the question.
I like answering Bachi's questions.
But listen, we started 15 minutes late. So I
5
must-
minutes late. Okay, you can finish this question then.
No, so
Any-
my earlier question before I came to absolutely the end of your book was, why should we believe you? But I mean, you have explained about that whole thing of the exhuming and the body. So please read the book to find that out. But my last question is, why has Sheena not reached out to you? If you think she's alive.
See, I do not know or think of anything. That's the first thing. Okay, I have been informed that people have cited her, but I haven't seen her myself. But, no, I'm telling you, I believe only in the hardcore evidence that has come on record in court. And I will cite only 3 evidence. I know for me, talking about skulls and bones has become the new normal again, because I know it's like not very easy for people to swallow this, but I've done this for the last 6 years. I, in fact, ended up studying a lot of law books and case studies, you know, for this. So the DNA expert has come and admitted in court that he forged the DNA report. Okay, he got suspended. So anyway, so that obviously, you know, is very telling. Why would somebody, until and unless somebody is really hell-bent on framing me for reasons best known to them, why would anyone want to forge a DNA report? The second thing is, also as per the post-mortem report, they had said that the skull of that skeleton, which was found, was cut open and then
that's in the book.
It's in
That's
the book.
in the book. No, but
my reason to believe is because Rahul Mukherjee has come and admitted in court that there are messages, and he admitted those messages in between him and Sheena 5 months after she allegedly disappeared and we allegedly strangled her.
Why has Sheena not reached out?
So that I cannot say. That is only an answer that Sheena can give. Maybe she's under duress. Maybe I do not know. So until and unless, this is not about just about, see, whether I am, it is definitely all the evidence exonerates me. That is different. But I still need to find Sheena. I still need to find what has really happened. And this has got nothing to do with the court. And Bachi, you asked me another question. Why should we believe you? Right? You asked me. I will answer. No, I don't want anyone to believe me or not believe me, because it doesn't really, affect my life whether people believe me or not, because people decided I was guilty till everything, all the evidence came in court and everyone realized that the agency didn't just have an egg on their face, they had an omelette on their face. Okay, so that was big, but that really doesn't make a difference to me anymore. But the court, ultimately, it's the court. The case is the court. And the rest of it is, I think people have to accept me for all that I have gone through, and people who decide that they want to be my friends and true friends, not fair weather friends, have to be my friend as the not good girl. I will never be the good girl that society expects me to. And that's a warning to anybody who wants to be my friend.
Okay, so whoever still dares to ask the question.
Okay.
Priscilla.
I can be loud. I have to read the book now. Thanks to the KSLF. I know you have written a book. My question is, the way this came to light was so absurd. A
Yes.
driver speaking something, and then
Ask the
3 years
question,
later.
ask
So the
the
question is, what is the skullduggery behind that, if you can comment on?
See, I am not very sure. So until and unless I'm very sure, I won't really comment on it. But I think it definitely, it's very telling that I was, arrested a day before my daughter's 18th birthday, and I've told you. And there's a lot more that I have written in my book. I think somebody definitely did not want me to talk about a lot of things. That is for sure. And that being one. And the other thing is, I think people who are behind this did not expect me to survive in prison for more than 15 days. But I survived. And I'm out here and answering your questions. So, yeah.
We will be reading your book. But yes, how is your everyday as an emotional morning to night, as an emotional being? How do you spend your everyday?
I'm a much happier person now. So I think after I have come out of prison, in fact, even during my time in prison, the first, I would say, first couple of months was very emotionally turbulent for me for several reasons. One was obviously because at that point I believe my child was no more. And so that was very, very difficult. And then having been let down by my own husband, he reached out to me only after he was arrested. So that's, karma is a hero without a cape. So the moment he got arrested, obviously, he reached out to me immediately the next day. So, and then I didn't need him anymore, right, after that. So that was different. But after that, I think I decided that it was my battle and I am going to fight it. And if I don't fight it, I am going to be seen as a guilty person for the rest of my life. I have a voice and I am going to speak, even though I stammered as a child, but I will still talk. And I think now my life is very good because I am doing a lot of things for social reforms for underprivileged women, which is very satisfying. I have already started writing my second book. I have also sold the rights of this book for the audiovisual rights. And also there is something else that's happening. But apart from that, I am also engaged in a lot of physical activities. I'm a kickboxer, I do yoga, and I am also dancing. I love dancing. I found new love in dancing. And I have a lot of me time, and I am I think my children are grown up. My youngest is now 26. So I'm quite actually happy. I'm traveling. I'm just, I'm a free spirit, I'm a very free-spirited person. So I'm very happy, actually.
And it's a new lease of media life.
Well, it's, I don't think I was ever really, even when I was in prison, I don't think I was ever, I could be, kind of kept down, really. I think a lot of things happened even in prison. While I was in prison,
no,
I
Wilting
sent,
Lily.
I think,
No, Wilting Lily, right.
Yeah, because there was,
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Indrani. I've seen everyone at the edge of their chairs, and I hope that they may come away with a more balanced view of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And please buy my book and do give me a feedback. My Instagram ID is there. And if there are any questions later or outside, I shall answer. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We are 20 minutes over time, but that's not the only reason why we really wanted to start this session. Our next session is of a kind that we haven't really had before at KSLF. It's about artificial intelligence, large language models, generative AI. So it's a very high-tech session.